Thank you everybody for coming. We played rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock to see who stood up here and asked the questions, but I wasn't wearing black, so they actually just volunteered me.
You didn't get the memo? Mark,
I heard black is slimming. This is the last session of 20Books Vegas. Yes, I know. Who had a good time? Who has a full to-do list for next week and beyond? Who's going to double their revenue for next year? That's what I'm talking about right there. Even if you only made $10, hey, you can do better than that. If you made $100,000, you can do better than that. The readers are out there. Don't ever think that there aren't enough readers. There are more readers than we have access to, and we're working every single day to find them. 20Books. Yay! This is the Ask Us Anything panel. So actually, I'm standing up here at the podium, but it's Ask Us Anything, and that means you guys. We've already said our piece. We've said we've melted your brains with inanities and statistics and numbers and theories and things that worked for us and things that didn't work. We had a great keynote. We had a great productivity speech. We had great panels. We had a little bit of everything. We had a late night session, and I didn't see any pictures. What's wrong with you people? No pictures from Michael Anderle's session. What's wrong with you people?
Were there 6 a.m. pictures? Somebody wants their picture at 6 a.m.
People took pictures.
Don't take pictures
Yeah.
at 6 a.m., please.
It was 6 a.m. session. It wasn't very exciting. Everybody's standing there drinking their coffee.
They were falling asleep at 10, too.
Yeah. First question, please. Speak close to the microphone. There you go.
Oh, can't hear him. No. Can you hear me now? Everyone says no. I sure can't back here.
Nope.
There we are. Live.
How about now? So I was asking Shayne a little bit about this earlier. I'm going to broaden the question a bit. For those of us who are genre challenged, how do you recommend that we figure out after we've written our story which is the right genre for us to market to?
Look, one microphone for 6 big egos.
5 egos.
No, Mark's says twice.
Mark's is twice. The simple answer can be which one is going to make you the most money.
Woo! I like it.
So whenever I did paranormal and science fiction mashup, I chose paranormal as my major one to market to because I could show vampires on the covers. And so that's the way that I did it.
Well, being like the old fart up, well, not really. Well, this is what's really, really, really cool about the whole indie everything is that when I first had my books published, they were arguing whether you could do science fiction or fantasy because you had to be in a physical brick and mortar bookstore and they didn't know which shelf to put it on. And now, because of keywords and because of all the sub-genres, you can find your exact readership that is really going to be enthusiastic and crazy proselytizing about your stuff because you can find the readers of any specific sub-genre that would want to read vampire, paranormal, steampunk, futuristic time travel mysteries. And that's my genre, guys, mine. So I'm just loving the fact that you can worry about different shavings of your genre and that you can market to one or the other. I'm just thinking it's cool.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters these days. I mean, I was talking to someone at the drinks last night who said they're making, actually more than one author making 5 figures a month writing alien romance, which is fantastic. It's never been easy to find the readers for even books that you might think are in the smallest niches possible. with the, the tools that Amazon makes available to us and Facebook and things like that. Just write what you want and you can find the readers for it.
Do you want more?
Yes.
Another good way is if you really want to have a genre that you can jump right into, find people that you don't know. So go on the internet and ask for strangers for help, and just say, hey, I want a few people that would like to beta read this, and then tell me your thoughts. Tell me where you think this should be. Like if you were to look for this in the store or on Amazon or wherever, Kobo, where would you look for this book? And let them tell you.
So we already talked about it a little bit, but I would second Anderle where he said follow the money. This is a business. I mean, if you want to make a business out of this, you need to treat it like a business. But as long as there's not a reason that the two genres fight each other, then like Mark Dawson said, I mean, there's no reason they can't both be in the same story.
Thank you.
So I have a question about juggling the creative versus the business side. And often, they kind of overlap, or you find that area where they overlap. But sometimes, you really do feel like, okay, my creativity is very drawn toward this, but this makes more business sense. Like maybe I've built up this genre, but I really feel like this genre. Do you have any rules of thumb, or just how to know where to focus down and when to make the business decision the most important and when to prioritize just the creativity side of it?
Start with this one. That's good. I like to say that writing is 50% art and 50% business, because you can write all you want, but if you're not able to sell, it's a hobby, right? I mean, you're a hobby author. You can't make it a full-time career if you can't support yourself with it. So if that's something that you can't do, find someone who can do the business side of things for you, so you can focus on the written word. I mean, that's with Danielle, who's the CEO at Martelle Press. She really runs the business side of things, while I try to focus more in on the creative side of things on my part of it. So,
Yeah, I would say it all kind of depends. Like when I was first starting all this, I didn't have a lot of time or money or anything. And so writing was the most important thing. And I would minimize everything else to do the bare minimums to get what I needed, the website, the email list, whatever it was. So it depends on where in your career you are. But then as you start progressing, you need to find a way to outsource or streamline in any way that you can, because the product that makes the money is your book, right? So you have to have that. And so typically in my case, it's about 60% or more writing, 40% business. But if I'm not doing a launch, it might switch right back to flipping those over so that the writing is 10%.
I think my question is less about managing both sides and just knowing what to prioritize. People who are highly creative, you might be drawn towards multi-genres, but you might think, okay, that's not the best business decision, or that kind of thing. It's less about doing both and knowing which comes first and which hat you wear when.
Well, I think you have to ask if it's a hobby or a business, right? If you're going to pick a genre, is that what you mean? Like which genre is best? Is that what you're asking? Like if you've got a bunch of genres that you like?
Maybe. I mean, this is for sure a business. It's, 6 figures already. It's just sometimes I've got that hummingbird brain that Christine talked about.
No, we all have that. Yeah.
And sometimes, I like the freedom to follow the hummingbird brain, but then I've got my business hat that says, well, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I've faced a lot of that too, and it's hard to answer it, but the way to answer it is you do all of the above, and you need to find ways to do all of it. And a key secret that I discovered was to marry well and have a partner who does it. And we were on the whole power couples panel too, because I love to write. I mean, just if there's anything options that I can do, I pick writing, thanks. And I would rather be doing that than just about anything. My wife, Rebecca, is also a writer, but she's not as obsessive as I am, and she likes to have written, but she doesn't like the whole process of writing. So I turn a whole bunch of the business stuff over to her to keep her busy with that, because she's got an MBA and she does a bunch of the business stuff. But to get back to the all of the above, there are I made my real career by when I started writing Star Wars books and X-Files books and Star Trek books, and all of those paid me very well, and they got me big audiences, and I could have done those kind of books all day, every day, all year long, because they kept offering me those jobs. The problem is, once you get paid for those, they own the IP, and I don't own the IP. And so I always made certain that I found time to write my own stuff in the middle of that. So now, years later, I made a bunch of money doing that, but I don't get anything for those anymore. But I've now got all of my IP that I'm redeveloping and pushing. And you have to find a way, whether it's you carve out 1 day a week or a certain amount of time, that this is for your. We're in Vegas. This is your gambling. This is the thing that you're going to plunk into the roulette wheel or slot machine or something like that. And most of those won't win. Most of the time, your slot machine's not going to win. But when the one does win, you're glad you did it.
Thank you.
Let me jump in and ask a question first. What is your projected ad spend for 2020 and projected growth?
Ask my wife.
$20.
I think we'll probably spend a little under $500,000, and we'll probably push about 15 to 20% more. And that growth ad spend was probably about 20% more ourselves, but we're trying a lot of different things. So we're having a lot of at-bat and swing and misses on the ad side as we work to see what's going on in wide.
I imagine the ad spend will be around about $500,000, maybe $550,000, and looking to gross up to about $2 million, something like that.
On my end, we're still spinning that up. So that's, Mountain Press has been going for about a year, and we are still learning always how to do ads better. So that does cost money to learn how to do that. So it's hard to say if the cost will go down or up. But I do think that our actual profit was the other half of that question, right? Like,
What's your ad spend for 2020?
Right.
And then your projected growth?
Projected growth. Well, I think that from October 11th to the end of December, we are more than doubling what we have on the market. So I'm expecting us, hopefully, to go at least a third higher in the next few months, and then within the next year, doubling or more of for income. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say as little as possible on the ad spend, but it's probably going to end up being 500 plus, and then I would say probably 2 million plus for growth.
All right, so mine's more of a targeting thing. I write kind of lit RPG, game lit, fantasy, and I've always had issues with Facebook ads because game lit and lit RPG aren't categories you can target, and none of the lit RPG authors are targetable either. So I've always gone like fantasy, dark fantasy, and it's been okay, but it's been like a wash as far as things go. And I don't have a big backlist, so it's kind of losing me money on that.
I suppose I better take this one. So Facebook ads, they're reducing the ability to target by interest. So some of the author names you would have been using for a long time, you can't target those anymore. The way I'm doing it now is to build up big lookalike audiences. So you take your mailing list, for example, and you put that into Facebook, build out a big lookalike, and then try and filter over some interests over the top, so kind of general behaviors and things like that. That can work quite well. Also, what I'm doing more of these days is engagement campaigns at the top. I was going to do something on the reader funnel, but we're going to do a webinar on that instead because it's quite technical. But if you think of the top of the funnel, so people who like your genre perhaps, but might not have heard of you, you start running ads into the top there without necessarily wanting them to actually click and buy. You want them to interact with the ad, so engagement, clicks or comments or likes or shares. You then retarget those people with sales ads in the middle of the funnel. So if I know, therefore, that you like a broad genre like psychological thrillers, that might be the top of the funnel, I'll fire lots of ads and try to get engagement built up. And then when we come down to the bottom of the funnel or the middle of the funnel, then I can send them targeted re-engagement ads that are intended to send them to the store where they can then check out and buy the book.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hello. No, my question is kind of a follow-up to what Craig was asking, but what are the 2 areas, because I don't want to just say 1, that's lame, 2 areas that you guys are going to be, you could go 3, investing in over in the next year, like your big focuses? I like making
Help.
Michael's face look like that.
Help. I mean, seriously, helping is that we are growing in so many different directions, and I can't do everything, and Rebecca can't do everything, and Marie can't do everything, and Michelle can't do everything, and I am terrified about hiring employees because that doesn't always work well. We've got a fantastic virtual assistant, and there's just everything that we do, there is so much more that we can do. And it feels very frustrating, like you're running in this gerbil wheel because, but I could do more if I did this, and I could do more if I did that. And then you balance out, but if I get somebody that takes more time to train and mentor before the work gets done, then I'm losing my time doing things. So I guess the answer is trying to find people to do more of the stuff so that I have more time to wish I had more time to do more stuff. There.
So we're not exactly investing in that answer so much as we grew so much so fast. And in 2019, we had a really big, audacious, hairy goal. And so for 2020, we're going to be reconciling the understandings that we did during this year. Certainly wide is going to be one area that we would be spending a lot of money and time and effort to understand as we roll out Opus X. But I think the ability to make sure that we're taking care of everything that we've built so far and not lose it by trying to do yet another big, hairy, audacious goal. So that would say we would be the area. So as we do the infrastructure, which includes legal, includes CPA, it includes all of those things so that as we come out of 2020, I have the ability to be anywhere in the world and everybody gets paid, and it wasn't me at midnight trying to do it from Beijing, China.
For me, it would be staff, because at the moment it is just me really in the writing side of the business. So as I said the other day, my brother came to ours at Christmas and we had a chat, and he's like, you don't have any employees. It's a 7-figure business, it's just you doing it. So that was kind of, I thought, okay, we'll put your money where your mouth is, and so I'm going to hire him. And it's quite tricky with this kind of stuff. To trust someone with your passwords and stuff. It's, you know, as Kevin says, you know, you can get someone, but you don't really necessarily know them, and it's not that hard to find stories of, you know, staff members who have put their fingers in the till. So I don't think he would do that. I know where he lives if he does. So there would be that, and then beyond that, probably into different formats. So as I said again the other day, I'm looking at comics now. There's the big the print-only deal that will roll out next year that will require a bit of time investment from me. So yeah, looking to split those IPs up a little bit more.
For us, so big thing, just strangely, must be something in the air, but I think it's infrastructure as well. We are, you know, seeing how we are growing right now, and with a 2 or 3 person company trying to manage even what we already have can be a little daunting. And so, but like they were saying, like all that, agree 100%. The next big thing for me, I believe, is going to be merchandising, because I've heard great stories from Jason, I think it's Anspach, Anyway, about how they have their merchandising that is now outpacing their sales of books, and I would love to, you know, see that happen for us as well. And the stress balls, how'd those go? So those good for the conference?
So I would probably say audiobooks. I'm looking at doing some things with audiobooks, a lot of expansion, and then foreign translations, trying to figure that out. And then I've got a couple people that I've been talking to about print options. trying to just bully my way into bookstores. So I'm going to try and do that, see if it's lucrative, just kind of look at the numbers and see what I think I can do there. But I've already kind of worked on the infrastructure thing. It's definitely going to be a problem going forward, though. It's always going to be a need as you succeed and grow. You're going to have more needs to help you juggle it all. So, but I would say print, audio, and maybe merchandising.
Thank you, guys.
Just maybe now.
Maybe.
It pops in my head all of a sudden.
I have the basic newbie question for somebody starting off that doesn't have a lot of money. Cover or editing?
Not it. All right.
I'll take this cover.
Okay, very good.
If you don't catch them with your cover, they're never going to see your bad editing.
Exactly. The most brilliantly written thing that nobody buys is not going to get an audience. But you can't be sucky on the inside either, so they won't buy the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We have reached a quorum,
All right, so I have the bummer question. How do you survive? How do you anticipate surviving any economic downturn, especially since we're creatives and our income is discretionary? So how do you survive that, or how do you anticipate surviving any future downturn?
So one thing that's a little reassuring that I kind of looked at in '08 and just over the little minor recessions that we've had is that book sales would drop, but nothing like the rest of the economy, because it's such a cheap relief from all the stress that people have in their life that even though their world's going to hell, there's a $3 fix, at least for that night, right? And so, yes, we'll notice a bump, but it's nothing like the rest of the economy. So there's that. It's still not a great answer, but it's not as bad as you're probably thinking either. So diversification always helps.
I really like that a lot. I had a slightly different approach to it, is in that since I started publishing my own books in only 2016, I've had the mentality for the last few years that every profit that I have, my personal profit, goes against debt. And so this year we were loans debt-free. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Thank you. Yes, I feel that way on the inside too. I'm just and I do recommend that because it's a great feeling to say I could go be a barista and still support my family. If I had to, in worst case scenario, that's kind of where I am. And now that is passed, I can be more focused going forward and helping other people, especially the authors in my company, to get there as well, because that's a huge goal for me. So,
yeah. I have a long soapbox on this one. Well, I mean, I'm looking out at you guys, and I've been following Michael and following all of the indie stuff. We started indie publishing in 2010, but my career has been like 35 years since I was professionally published, since my first book came out from Signet Books and was professionally published. And I like to, I'll start it also with my little brag. I've got 23 million copies of my books in print. I've published 165 titles. I've had 56 national, international bestsellers. In my career, in my career, I have crashed and burned and died and resurrected myself so many times I call myself Doctor Who. And I know so many of, we just spent a couple weeks ago with Christine Catherine Rush and Dean Wesley Smith, who also broke in the same time that we did. And we talk about how many times has your career died and you came back. You have constant crashes and cycles and resurrection. The indie publishing is new enough that you've only been through your first one or more crashes and cycles. You're gonna have more. Your career is gonna go like this, and then it's gonna go like that. And you need to figure out how to survive next year and hiring more staff. Well, that's one of the problems is once you hire staff, then you've got a nut that you need to meet every single month. You have to pay that even if your stuff goes down. So you have to prepare for this. You need to diversify your income. You don't think because this year you made $300,000 profit that you're going to make it next year. Set money aside. Pay off your debts if you have to. We had a really big crash about 4 years ago when I'm a hybrid. I'm still selling things to traditional publishers and I'm doing all of our indie stuff. But about 4 or 5 years ago, a big cash cow of mine through traditional publishing went away because that publisher went away. And suddenly I didn't have an income stream that I was counting on for a lot of years. And that's when I went back and I went back to school and got my MFA because I had been offered a job as a college professor to teach a master's degree in publishing. Well, I can teach a master's degree in publishing. I mean, none of my professors knew what they were talking about either. So I set that up, and I now am running this grad program, which it's a part-time gig for me, but it pays fairly well, and I get health insurance. And that really is going to help carry us through any other ups and downs that we have. And this is the paid announcement. Ask me about my publishing program if you want to get your master's degree. But that's how you really need to set up. You are going to crash and burn. No, nobody up here is going to. But that is the reality of having a career as even a successful author. I mean, I've been through so many of the #1 bestsellers, and then suddenly, wait, where did all that money go? Because this industry changes like the Andromeda strain. It's mutating and changing constantly. So what you're doing this year may not make you the same amount of money next year, and you need to be prepared to ride through it. End of rant.
Cool. Thank you.
Karen McDaniel from the live stream asks, so much junk gets self-published. How do you truly know when you're ready to put your first work out there?
When your mom likes it.
This ought to be an interesting question to answer. The problem is it doesn't really matter at times what you think your book is good enough. It matters the people who buy your book, what they think about it. Because you might think that you have the best thing ever and everybody else doesn't. Does that make you wrong or them wrong? If you've written, how many of us have written a book, pushed the button, and went, that was the most horrible stuff I've ever written, and then the fans come back and go, that was awesome. Keep them up, yes, that's right. That's happened to me. It's happened to you. So there isn't an easy way to answer that, and my opinion would be, and what I did personally is I put it out. The easiest way for me to figure out if this book is any good is to put it up for sale and find out if anyone's willing to buy it and tell me anything about it. I'm not afraid, wasn't afraid, to do that, and it paid off handsomely. So I'm not a proponent of sitting there and doing it over and over again, and I believe that individuals who are stuck in that position might need someone to push the button for them and find out. And if you're really scared, do it under a pen name and flush them later.
Yeah, I have some experience of this with Mr. Blatch and his he's not here now, so I can say anything I like. He's been writing that damn book for a long time now, and apparently this month will be published, and next month will be published, and sometime in 2025. And anyway, for I think Mike nailed it there. The best thing to do is if you're not sure, make it as good as you can get it. When you start to shift colons and hyphens around, that's probably a sign that it's ready to publish. And when you do that, the market will tell you whether it's any good or not. The reviews and the sales will either come in or they won't come in, and that'll be what you need to look for.
I would say publish without expectations. So especially if you're doing your first book in your first series, don't expect that it's going to be dropping an anvil into a puddle. It's probably going to be a pebble. You know, it might not have that huge splash, but you know, the ripples can eventually, you know, make waves. I don't know. That was weird. Sorry. Get a little philosophy. Little too much world building going on here. No, like you know, if you publish without expectations, you'll always be surprised if you do well. And if you publish with the expectation that you're going to do amazingly, you can only be crushed. You know, because if your expectation is that you're going to exceed your expectations, and you exceed expectations, then you've only met expectations, right? So, yeah. All right. I'm just gonna.
You guys need to write that down. If you didn't get it, especially. So I definitely agree with everything they said, and I want to kind of go back and take a different approach. My first book, I wrote it in 2012, and it did horribly. And I just refused to believe that it was horrible and waited to become a millionaire, and it didn't work. And so 3 years later, I started working on the sequel, and that's when I Mark Dawson about his course and just learning how to advertise. And so once I was able to advertise that and get it in front of enough readers, it became a very big success. But if I would have just published it and not let the readers decide, I would have thought I was a failure, right? So the readers are the best gauge.
Looks like, oh good, we have another question after me. First of all, I want to thank everybody. This is my second conference in a row. This has been great, don't you think? This has been outstanding. You should make this tall enough for normal-sized guys, by the way. I guess, here's my question. Someplace between doing this for a hobby, which I do not want, and becoming a mega corporate person with 8 or 10 or 15 people working for me, some of them are writing books under my name, and I don't object to that. That's cool. That's not my corporate model. My model is me, the artist, producing good work that I can live on, even though I have a retirement income that I can actually live on. I got a feeling that many of us out here love and admire the large success that all you guys have had, but we'll settle for less as long as we can make a dent in the world and have I got an email from a reader in Jerusalem while I was here saying how great my stuff is. Do you know how that made my day? That feels so good. So can you talk to me about the difference? Where do I find my space between being broke and ignored and being Michael Anderle? Yeah.
Do you want to take that first since he addressed it to you? So with me, when I was first starting, I didn't set a goal to become a millionaire. I lied to myself and said I would someday, but I had no facts to back that up. So what I did is I was getting ready to have a second child, and I said, okay, diapers cost $100 a month or whatever it was. And I literally broke it down into tiny increments like that. Okay, so $100 would be 20 sales at this price. And so I said, I need to make 20 sales. How can I make 20 sales? And I would start analyzing everything on a macro level. And then as I hit that, I would raise it up to the next goal, which was daycare or whatever the next thing was, a phone bill, whatever it was. And so I never, in the back of my mind, I told myself I was going to be big, like Michael Anderle and Mark Dawson. But I didn't really believe it. I just kept telling myself that, and I just focused on the small goals.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. I would say that something that kind of is a strange mentality is that people think that it is all or nothing, and it's really not. You can have your full-time job. You can go and be a professor and get your health insurance covered, and yeah. And still write 5 books a year and be amazing.
Or be retired.
I'm sorry, what?
Or be retired in my case.
Or being retired, yeah. But I mean, more generally, like a lot of people think if I'm not a full-time author, I'm not an author, and that's just not true. You're a paid author if you're making a penny. If someone buys your book, you are a commercial author. You've done it. So think smaller and get big.
And I want to go back to the all of the above thing that I mentioned before. This is I've always been a prolific author, and I would write a bunch of different projects, and like this one, because they gave me a paycheck for it. This one, they offered me a contract for it. And this one is a surefire success. But you know, this one is the one that I really just in my heart and I want to write it. So I found a way to write that one as well as doing the one that paid the bills. And you know, over time, the ones that I really, really liked the most turned out to get their own audience too. And they were pretty good and they were pretty successful. But I also think if vampire steampunk romances suddenly makes a huge amount of money and I can write one to order and that's what's gonna do it, I can write one to order and see if it makes money for me while I write my other one that I like, my Dan Shamble Zombie PI series, which I just love it, and it's got a good following now, but at first nobody knew it was going to. You just do whatever you want to do. But the thing is, you have to make money somehow. And if you write a book that's going to make money, that's not much different from getting a regular job that pays your bills too. So I looked at the money making, well, I love doing the Star Wars books, but the Star Wars books were like my day job, and my other books were my writing books in the evening. And so I got paid, and then I did stuff that I loved, and then it turned out that they both ended up making money. Now you want to talk.
One of them that I would say is I always ask the question, what is your mountain? You know, if you look at LMBPN, and you should please do. But if you look at LMBPN, please understand that we have a strategy for going large enough that it matters to the biggest companies that we exist, and we do now. We're 600 titles, but you know how many millions of dollars it took to accomplish that? A lot of them. I often looked at, and we've used Shayne Silvers before inside the company as a tactical way for an individual to make 7 figures without growing like LMBPN. You'll notice I never said how many people work inside LMBPN. It's just too many to consider at times. And so I don't want people to necessarily look at LMBPN and go, that's the high mark. We're a very unique black swan that is trying to accomplish something for a tactical reason at a business level, not at an author level. Okay. If you would like to look at it and put that next person up, look at Dakota, look at Mark, look at Shayne, look at Kevin. Well, he can't look at you either. You're gonna have movies and everything else coming out. Don't look at me. But really, the point is, though, when you look up at your mountain, what is it you want? What I would typically go and ask you, how much more is that a month? How much more is it for you not to believe that you're at where you're at? Is it 1,000? Is it 5,000? What's the number?
I haven't computed that yet.
Kind of need to know that.
Okay.
If you're looking at it from a monetary, but think about the letter that you just talked about.
Yeah.
Do you want a few more of those?
A lot more, yeah.
Okay, so the question totally changes the tactics that you would use, right? Because what is it that people inside need? Write stuff to point to that. Okay. That's where I guess I would look at it and go, okay, these people that are writing these letters, why did they write them? Was it about your characters? And if so, write more of those characters. Find out a way to get those books into the hands of those people whose lives are going to be changed by what you do.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Bring it back down for short people. So now that you don't have to rely on Amazon Advantage to try and use ads in the UK and Denmark, if you're not living in the, what did I say? Sorry.
Germany.
I won't tell that to my Danish friends. Thank you, I didn't catch that. So now that you can place ads in those markets and you don't necessarily live within those markets, what is an efficient method for researching and figuring out the dynamics of advertising in those markets that you don't live in? Should you apply the rules that are working in the .com market internationally, or how do you best research, test, implement for foreign markets? And even scoping that beyond just Amazon if you want to advertise elsewhere internationally.
The tactics typically will be the same, because the platforms will be the same in terms of how you actually place the ads and how you target them. The challenge is you know, if you need to be writing copy in a language you don't speak. So I don't speak German or French or Spanish. So I've got translators now who work on the books. They're actually, I also get them to translate the blurbs, the ad copy, all of that kind of stuff. And keywords, you know, if you're going to be advertising on Amazon in Germany, you need German keywords. So I have, I've got my VA to go through the bestseller charts in Germany and then pull down, say, the top 100 titles, then the top 100 authors, maybe grab the ASINs as well, and then we can start serving ads just the same as we would on .com, on .de. And it will be just the same when, you know, it won't be long, I don't think, before we can advertise in Spain and Italy and all of those kinds of places. I think that's coming quite fast, and I think the strategies will be pretty much the same.
Nothing new to add. He's the expert on this.
What he says.
Next question. Next question, please.
Max Jolie asks, have you looked at other revenue streams outside of KU and direct book sales, and such as crowdfunding or prescription services like Patreon?
Well, everybody does plays to their own strengths and what they can do. And one of the things that we did that was huge for years is we would go around to all these Comic Cons and set up our booths, and it is direct sales. But we had our authors, and we had tables with our books, and we brought big name authors there because I know big name authors. And we one convention, Salt Lake Comic Con, we sold 4,500 physical books in one weekend. But it's a pain in the ass. I mean, we had warehouses, we had a van, we had stockpiles of our books, and we did one, I think one year we did 21 conventions in 1 year, and we sold a lot of books. I don't know that my wife is still caught up with all the sales tax forms, because that's another real big pain. But we were seen. I counted up. I mean, we had this big banner with my name on it and Wordfire Press on it, and we were in front of 1.5 million people physically there signing books. That's pretty cool, and that really made a mark, and I don't do that anymore. But that is one way to do it, and you can because you make a fair amount of money selling physical books. And people are not buying the book because the book sounds good. They're buying a souvenir because they're meeting the author who's going to sign it for them. So that's actually contradicts what the question was, because they said other than direct sales, so I'll pass it on to somebody else.
I think there's one of the big things that we've been doing recently. I'm not sure where I should point for the person that's on the video, but one of the things that we've been doing certainly is just in the audio going wide. We've been doing that for a year, Z-Relation, streaming, different things like that. We're looking at doing the pins, so more into that side of things. And it's not been a big piece of our pie because it takes time away from the next 100 books we're trying to put out. It's like we only have so many resources, and it's been focused on creating books. Now that we've kind of hit that 600 mark, I guess, that I had in my mind, then we're going to slow down, so to speak, and build up some of these other revenue streams that we're looking at. And I'm excited from some of the things that we've heard here, that we've talked to. You know, Krishan Keller-Hanna was sitting right here earlier and was talking a little bit to the things that they do, and I think that's fantastic. And so, avenues. We've sold rights, we've switched to other languages, and it is a good time to be an indie, a really good time.
Next question, please.
So one of the things you mentioned was that everywhere your career goes up and it can drop, and then it goes up and it can drop. For someone whose career went up and dropped, what do you recommend putting your focus in order for or in that direction?
Coffee and beer are kind of good things either way. For me, the first crash was the real eye-opener, because when you think you've made it, once you've gotten on the bestseller list or once you've got it, you just go, well, there, I can coast from now on. And it's a real rude awakening when suddenly they don't want your stuff next year. And you have to have self-confidence, you have to work your butt off, you have to try different things because whatever it was you were doing didn't work, it crashed. So then you try it again and you try something else. And when we had our really bad crash, like 4 or 5 years ago, when suddenly we were scrambling all over the place, I realized, holy crap, I am unemployable in a real world job. And I didn't want to get a real world job, although being a forest ranger and a fire lookout with all that time in the world to be with my laptop seemed like a good option. My wife didn't want that option very much, though. You do just have to try everything and see what's going to work, because you don't, if you knew what was going to work, then you wouldn't have crashed in the first place.
Well, actually, it was life issues that got in the way, so everything had to come to a stop. So it's almost like starting over, but not quite. I have a backlist. And, you know, so it's like, where do I put my focus to be most effective moving forward?
Well, a lot of people know, we had the year from hell, too. We had a lot of major losses and major personal setbacks. But I always think, with all the stuff we've been talking about here, the writer's core is you have to write stuff. And I think always your best efforts, if it's ever a choice, your best effort is to write something. If it is really a choice, I think that's your best choice.
Since you have a backlist, there are multiple strategies that are both on the 20Books Facebook page to allow you to realize how to resuscitate a backlist. Whether or not you want to pull things together like a new box set so that you have new product coming forward. If you would like to do different ads, if you'd like to recover, if you would like to pull down, edit one more time, put back up, get a new ASIN, you know, try to revitalize things that are going that way. So there's a lot of tactical ways to use your existing backlist as you make sure you have new product. You know, what is the schedule? How fast do you write? How many books can you put out? What is your promise to everybody that says, I will now have books out every 6 weeks, 90 days, whatever it is that works for you. So there are a lot of tactical things you can do in order to resuscitate what you're doing right now.
I'd say something that really excites me is I've sold 300,000 copies of the first book in the Milton series, right, which sounds great, but it's actually nothing. You know, if you look at how many books Lee Child sells, his new one is out, he's probably sold 10 million. So I haven't even touched the bottom of where I can get to with that book, and I think that's true for all of us. So if you were looking to revive the sales again, what I'd probably do is I'd look very carefully at the first book. Obviously, it's a good book because it was doing well. The series must be liked by readers because you were doing well. I'd start sending a lot of traffic to that first book. Make sure that you're optimizing the end matter so you can get people to read through into the rest of the series. Just obviously keep an eye on how those ads are performing, but you want new eyeballs on those books. And maybe, you know, if maybe you haven't done ads before, or, you know, this is an opportunity to refresh those. But I think I'd be excited. It's a great opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say that I wouldn't look at it necessarily as a negative. I would just look at it as you're a new author, and you've already got product. So I kind of went through that with my first book when I was trying to figure out how to make sales on it 3 years later. And so I found a way to, like Michael said, reincorporate new IPs from it, or new products from that IP. And so I made a box set, I made a novella, I started driving every penny I could towards it, which was $5 a day, that's all I had. And I really just funneled everything into that product and rolled the dice. You've already got success. I didn't have that. So I wouldn't look at it as you failed. I would look, or like something happened to ruin everything. I would look at it as I've got a new opportunity to try again. So.
Thank you.
I know this is for like really tall people. Okay, a while ago, Mark, you said something about Spain and France and all of these markets are coming. Well, here's my question. Do you have those markets?
Do I have those for advertising?
Yes.
Kind of yes, no. Yeah.
Okay. Let's say you were very small and you weren't making 5 figures a month and you had no sales in like France, but you know, you could get a drink over there maybe, in like a year. and Spain and Italy, and you weren't doing anything there, and you got the opportunity, those opened up for you. Would you take the time to advertise there if you had, like, Germany opened for me through the KDP, and I had like I think $56 over there in 15 months, and I made that in 10 days after I started advertising in Germany. That's small potatoes, but I was making $3 and something a month, and now I'm making more than that a day, and I've just started. So I know I can scale that up. I don't know how high, but I've not done. And said, here you go. Would you start? Would you take him on?
You've got to make sure you got to have something to sell. So if in Spain...
I do have 9 books and 3 box sets.
In English or in...
They're in English.
Right.
And
okay, so I mean, there's a fairly large English-speaking market in Germany.
Right.
So you've obviously tapped into that. But there's a much bigger German-speaking language market in Germany, unsurprisingly. So
shocked.
I know. The same goes for France and Spain and all that. So for me, I personally wouldn't be advertising my English language books in the French market. I might sell some, but it would be hard, I think, and I don't think it would be worth the investment to try and wrangle profit out of that. But what I would do is get those books translated into those languages and then advertise the translations. Because we've seen, when I'm doing pretty well in Germany, we've got people in the SPF community who are crushing it in France. If Camille is in, she's doing amazingly well in France. And we're seeing others now starting to do well in Spain and the other markets as well. It's a big opportunity, but I'd say get the product right, first of all, make sure everything else is optimized, so the ASIN, the detail page, needs to be in that language, the covers need to be appropriate, they might maybe even be different covers than you have in the States, depending on what the market wants, but, and then take it one step at a time. Just the fact that they're all open, or they may all soon be open, doesn't mean you need to advertise in all of them at once. Just take it one step at a time.
Okay, then the next question is, I had not considered that all of these markets might open. So I know they had a foreign language translation panel. I don't know, maybe it was recorded? Okay, somebody just said no. If you have absolutely no knowledge of where to go to get your books translated, where do you go?
What I did was, I mean, I'm not a fan of Babel Cube, so I mean, I've been on that for ages, and I just don't, the problem you have is, I don't speak German, right? So I can't proofread my German translation, which is effectively a new literary work. So it needs to be edited, it needs to be proofed, all of that needs to be done. So, I mean, I've spent most of this year working on this, and the way I do it is I will find the translator who worked on Lee Child's book, and I'll find him on LinkedIn perhaps, and I'll make contact with him. Because these people, they're workers, they want to get paid, and they'll take on new content. So once I've done that, they will then work on the translation, and then I discovered as they sent it to me, I was like, okay, I need to edit this now. I don't speak German. So they recommended their editor to me, and then we built that workflow, and we've done that now for 6 books in Germany. And the same goes for France. I'll find people who've been road tested by the AAA publishers, and on the assumption that they've passed that test, that's going to be good enough for me as well.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, so my question is really similar. I also am interested in the German market, and I'm a German speaker, native, but obviously it would take me some time to acquire that skill, to actually translate fiction. So I guess my question before was, should I try to just use German keywords and German description, but an English book? And you kind of answered that already. I should also translate the German books. So my follow-up question is, how long do you think it will take until, the AMS German ads market will become as aggressive as the American market? Like, how much time do I have?
It'll take a while, and the reason for that is there's no bar to entry for any of us on .com or .co.uk because it's English, and most of us will write in English. There is a bar to entry in getting translations done because it's effing expensive. All right, so it's going to cost usually about 5,000 euros per book for me. So, you know, if I've got a trilogy, that's 15,000. That's a serious investment. Not everyone will be able to do that. So, until translation costs come down, we may start to see things like AI translations are becoming more of a thing. I don't think we're anywhere near there yet, but it won't be too long before the costs will come down because technology can assist. But I think we've got a good run for 4 or 5 years yet.
And you don't think the German-speaking authors, like, you know, people who are already primarily based in Germany and are publishing their books will become as aggressive with the advertising? Like, you don't think they're, I don't know if you're able to see who your consumers are of your course, if there's a lot of German-based authors, sorry.
We are starting to see authors in Germany taking the course, yeah. But it's still, I mean, it's a fairly, compared to the US and the UK, it's a fairly new market in terms of KDP. It's probably the third or the fourth one on the rank. So I think in time, obviously, more authors will learn how to use German Amazon ads. I noticed, I don't know if anyone here is advertising in Germany, but I noticed when that email went around and KDP access was enabled, my CPM, the cost per meal, went through the roof because everyone's suddenly going, shit, German ads, and they're piling the money in. It's gone down again now because those authors weren't doing it right and it was expensive for them. So you just have to kind of ride it out. But I think it's a pretty good time to be looking into that, and I think we'll have a few years maybe where it's not too aggressive.
Thank you.
I have 2 things to add to that. One, we put out quite a few German books now, and the latest Bethany Ann stuff comes out, and it'll get in the top 200 of the store. I'll go look at it to see that seller tag and everything, and guess whose ads show up on my effing book? Yours. No. Mark's books do. And the second one as to when is it going to come up and when is it going to get more expensive? I don't know, Mark. When are you translating your course into German?
Can I just also ask about that? Would you recommend, you know, diversifying my skills? Would you recommend that I get into German translations? And I don't know, maybe that's a question for all of you guys. Who would be interested in getting their books potentially translated into German?
Okay, so now you're going to have to sit down. That was, we have a couple of rules here. I think you just might have broke one.
I'm leaving.
Patrice Fitzgerald from the live stream asks, how do you protect yourself by developing diverse income streams for security without going in too many directions at the same time?
Sorry she wasn't here. She was actually planning on being here, but there was an issue with her life. So, you guys down there aren't talking.
Yeah. Okay, so I always look at the biggest return or the biggest potential return for the least work, and I'll do that first. So when I was first starting, I would look at, everyone would say, hey, you need to go to conventions, you need to do print, you need to do hardcover, you need to do this. And I would say, well, I can just keep writing a lot and do ebooks and advertise with Mark's course, and I don't have any investment. I don't have any costs to do that, to make print or test or proof or any of this stuff, or go to conventions and travel. I can write a book, instantly sell it, instantly be writing the next book. And so I always looked at things, what is the quickest way to make a buck so that I can use that profit to invest into that next avenue. So then I could use that profit to go to cons or print or audio or whatever it was.
I think something that a lot of people do when they start is they see the success stories and they see what those people are doing and they try to do that too. And that, you know, I'm sure we've all heard many, many times throughout the course of this, don't do that. Do the one thing and then slowly expand. There's actually there's a great diagram that you can find. I believe it's from the book Profit First. It's called the survival trap. If you just look up that image, it kind of gives you a good indication. It says, you know, you have one point here, and this point over here is where your money is being made. And if you go from there to there, you're making money. If you do other things, they might make you money, but this thing is guaranteed to make you money. And so you had to learn when to delegate. You need to learn when to kind of push that off so that you are focused on making money. Well, if that is your goal.
And the problem is, it's kind of like crabgrass in your lawn, that you start something and you go, oh, I'm going to try this other income stream, and then that becomes a full-time job, and then you try another income stream, and that becomes a full-time job, and it's like this weed that keeps spreading, and you have to make sure that you don't forget. Yes, I know you're listening. So, and that is one of the problems that you face, because you start out, presumably everybody in here, you start out as a writer, and then you start doing other things, and then maybe you're a college professor, maybe you do a side job as a cover designer or a freelance editor, and each one of these things may well grow and become also a full-time job. And then there's another cool thing that you want to try, because going to conventions and selling, that's kind of fun, and then you become a retail bookseller, and that's kind of fun, and then that makes money, and they never die. I mean, they never stop. They each become bigger, and then you take on another thing, and then you wish you were just a writer again, and then you get a regular job.
So this is a question for Kevin. It came up as a question after your productivity session yesterday, and I suggested it would be a good one for the wider panel to hear. So you've had your 24 hours. I wasn't the person who asked the question, but she hasn't come up, so I'm going to do it on her behalf, which is, you compared the current indie market with the ability to rapid publish, the questionable quality of some of that rapid publishing, and so forth, to be very similar to the pulp era. And the question was, so we've done it before. What lessons from the pulp era can we learn to do it better this time? What tricks are we missing that we could be doing, and what pitfalls should we be watching out for?
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because I have not been thinking of it for the past 24 hours. In my productivity talk yesterday, I did compare that in the 1930s and 40s was the pulp science fiction, the pulp magazine era, where there were all of these really, really, really fast writers that would do first draft and done, and they would send them out to their markets, and they would get paid a quarter-cent a word if they ever got paid. And the only way they could survive was by writing faster and faster and faster. And somehow they did come up with some genuine gems in the science fiction literature that way, and a lot of it was really, really crappy. And they ended up having covers, as you've seen Pulp magazine, of astounding stories covers of the, the scantily clad woman and the tentacled alien looking over her shoulder. Some of your covers, maybe, like that. Hey, if it sells. That is one of the, so here's the thing. Those writers ended up getting very little respect from the literary genre, but they bowled their way through, and they kept writing, and they got better, and the science fiction field became not crappy pulp science fiction that nobody but 12-year-old boys could read. They ended up doing some really good stuff. Dune was first published in Astounding Stories. We are in sort of the pulp fiction era of indie publishing, because we're producing lots and lots of work. A lot of it is crap, not by anybody from in this room, but there is a lot of it that people just write it and they put it up there, and their covers are bad, and the bad ones go away. The good ones, the good stories, the good marketers, the good business people manage to get through, and they survive. And this is a whole new aspect of publishing, just the same way that all of those pulp magazines in the 30s and 40s gave birth to the entire genre that I read and love. And so all of you guys, 50 years from now, what you're doing today is going to totally change the entire publishing and reading and entertainment industry. So not to put any pressure on anybody, but...
Kevin brings up a very interesting point, and that is everybody who's in a genre that hasn't been created in the last 2 or 3 years probably owes some generation behind them the appreciation for creating lovers of our fiction that we're riding the back of right now. So my hat's off. My hat's off to all of the people, whether it was 10 years ago or 50 years ago, to creating lovers of science fiction, creating lovers of romance, creating all of these things that we are taking advantage of those readers right now.
Okay, Sabrina Rose from the live stream asks, how can a new author differentiate themselves in a crowded market?
8-pack abs, not 6-pack abs.
I'm working on my keg abs.
He keeps dodging it. He keeps dodging.
Just write good stuff. That's the main thing. Is to write good stuff. Covers that fit the tropes, fit the market, and the audience will find the good stuff, and the bad stuff won't be found. That's simple.
I would say, hello. I would say that one of the things that you want to do is make sure that you are putting yourself out there as an author, because you can have 2-3 series, and if people are reading your series, they're done. But if they're reading, a Shayne Silver's book, that's what they're after. They're after the author, and they're going to read anything they have. So make yourself available to your fans and give them a reason to love you, and they will.
I'll say that it's when you build a pyramid, you do it one brick at a time. You build your readership, you find those that like your stories, and then you find more that look just like those. It's one brick at a time, and you can't be in a hurry. If you want to shortcut things, if you want to get there quickly, then I don't know how to do that, and I'm not sure anybody up here does. Because like I said, like Shayne Silver's, right? 7-figure author. His first book sucked.
Yeah.
Not really. Maybe it was targeted at the wrong audience, whatever. But he was 3 years, right?
2
Before
years,
you wrote
yeah.
book 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's one brick at a time. One brick at a time. So you build your business and don't be in a rush. The success will come when you write a great book, wrap a cover around it, put a blurb that's enticing, get people to one-click it, start reading, and never put it down, and then write another one just like it.
And I would add word more gooder. But no, all the tropes, you have to hit certain, covers, certain things that you have to hit. But find something that you can do that's unique to anything else in that genre. So my main thing was I wanted to take the old myths that everyone knew about, and I wanted to twist them on their heads. So the first chapter of the first book, I cow-tipped the Minotaur. And so I really wanted to grab the reader's attention and say, yeah, this is different. And it worked. I just didn't know how to get it in front of any readers for 3 years. Once I did, it worked. So you just need to find a way that your voice is unique.
It could be a very solitary and lonely business. And it's very easy to get too bogged down on the business side and working the ads, the numbers, and you kind of sometimes lose your spark for the fun of it. This question is for each of you, but Shayne, can we start with you? Especially since it took that 3 years before you jumped off. How do you, when you get lost in the numbers in the business and not doing what you want it to do, what methods do you guys each have for making it fun?
So I always get back to, the only time I'm not having fun is if I'm not writing. So if I'm doing any of the data or ads or anything like that, I start losing the fun. And so I'll find a way to get the creative juices flowing again. And that could be watching a movie, could be going on Pinterest and looking up cool covers or cool images that I could use for covers. And I just try to find that spark that kind of puts the fun back in it, and then you start writing again. But if you're feeling that you're not happy, then watch something funny. Watch a funny show, funny movie, whatever. But you gotta refill the muse. I mean, your muse is starving. That's why you're sad. So.
I just chase Michael Anderle around the world. But in a real way, like you said, it can become a very solitary business, especially when you live in remote areas or areas that you just can't get people to visit or you can't really leave very easily. And something that is great is we have the internet, and phones. And I don't know if Aaron Michael Ritchie is in here, but Are you over there? Yeah. So I call him probably once every other week and basically just root around in his discard pile. And I'm like, hey, what's funny that you can't use? No, just kidding. You know, like he's one of my good friends who I'll call and we'll say, hey man, here's what's going on in my life, here's what's going on in yours, and you know, just having someone to bounce those things off of, and especially when there's no real way to benefit from that relationship except by being friends, you know, that's something that can be huge. And just the people in here, they get it, they understand. Make friends here because they're going to be in the exact same position. So yeah.
Alcohol.
Not in the morning, though, Mark. Not in the morning. I find it ironic that I'm looking out at 1,000 people sitting out here talking about a lonely, solitary profession. But what you can't forget, and you're really nailing down a good point, that you can't forget that we really are supposed to be in this for the fun and the passion of the writing. Because if you just woke up one day and said, I'm going to be an indie author because that's where all the real money is, you're dumb. Get a job as a lawyer or something like that. And if all you're doing is the business part and the number crunching and the ads and working on it, well then crap, you might as well have a real job. This is the fun part, is the writing, and if you love what you're writing, then your audience is going to love what you're writing. And you don't forget that part. And I find that I mean, I'm writing space opera stories and epic fantasies and things, and so I need to recharge my creative batteries by doing fun stuff and seeing great things. And I mean, I think everybody in here knows we just spent 10 days in China seeing the most amazing stuff. And I live in Colorado, and I go mountain climbing, or I go out to see the waterfalls, or we travel other places, or we'll watch movies to get inspired. You've got to get. You think you're all like master chefs, you're creating things all the time. Well, if you don't keep putting ingredients in your pantry, you're not going to have anything to cook with. So keep doing this stuff, because it's not just fun, it's recharging your creative batteries, and it's refilling your pantry with ingredients that you can then use to write more stuff, to get your audience to buy your books, to then make a living at it. And it's a tax write-off to do, well, that's what Dakota said.
It's happened a few times. And some of the times when it's happened is when emotional things have hit me that I was not expecting, and I'm having to deal with them. And so at those moments, I have to remember that there's going to be a ray of sunshine once I get over this horrible situation, and remember how wonderful my life is. You know, just the ability to write or to create stories and to put stories out and to hear, you know, conversations with people like, you know, the other day a gentleman came up and said, hey, I reached out and contacted you and let you know that I had stories that we were going to do, but I was homeless. You know, what might I be able to do? And so I said, you know what, let me buy you a cover. That has maybe the best chance of helping you do what you want to do. And he came up here, so he's here. I presume he's still here. And he said, I had to ask him, and I said, well, where are you at now? And he says, well, I got a trailer, and I got 5 books out. Wow. Sometimes dig deep and find out what is that other motivation. It's not the money. It is the money, don't get me wrong. But it's not the money. You know, and figure out where's that tribe like Dakota's talking about with Michael Aaron Ritchie, which is a crazy motherfucker, I just want to say. So, yes, Aaron Michael Ritchie, fine. He's also a crazy motherfucker. But from there, find out where's your passion, what is it you need to do. Sometimes you have to do the business and you don't like it. Sometimes I had to write, and I didn't want to write that either. You know, it's like, hey, I got 10,000 words to do by tomorrow morning at 8. You know, but I moved through it. In 3 years, I think I might have had maybe 2 days off. That was it, to build what was going on. But it was a forward momentum to accomplish a goal. And sometimes if that goal is strong enough, it doesn't matter if you're doing the business side. You'll get back to the writing. You'll do what it takes. That's me, though. That's my mountain. I don't want to push my mountain on anyone here. Your mountain is what makes you get up each morning and be happy. But I can tell you from at least my vantage point, that is the most amazing career in life we've ever been able to have. And it doesn't matter who you are, where your mental is. You know, Tyler, are you here? Tyler, can you come up to the stage, please? My wife has assessed some things in our family, and we have 3 boys, and some of them, yeah, up there, all the way up. And she assessed some things that I thought were a little harsh for me to hear a few years ago. Where do I sit? You may stand right here. And what she told me had to do with maybe having a little bit of a mental problem. And I know this stuff is genetic. And so that, you know, I had to look at everything and realize that that's probably me. I see me in them of what she's talking about. I got an email from Craig, Tyler's dad, and said, hey, I just want to let you know, I've got my 25-year-old Asperger's syndrome son here with me, and he has been so focused on everything that we've been saying and doing. And he looks, and he is creative. And I said, would you like to meet? Because I'd like to meet you, and I'd like to meet him. And so Judith and I sat with him for an hour this morning learning about his life. And Tyler, can you pull up your poem while I finish this? Do you have your poem? Yeah. And so Tyler is telling us about a little bit of a poem that he has and about his life. And I'm trying to give him business advice, and Judith has given him mom advice. Stay in school, do these things. And I'm looking at her going, you're messing up my groove, man. And then she asked to see his poem, and I wanted to see his poem, but I didn't want to reach across and go, hey man, can I see it too, please, please? And then Tyler offered it to me, and I read it, and I'm like, fuck, I want to do a cover on this. You got it? Got it. Can we get him a mic, please? This is Tyler's poem. This man is fucking incredible. He is creative. And society might think he's not anything. And I'm like, damn it, this man, I want to read his books. So I really hope we encourage him to finish those books because I personally want to read them. Go ahead.
Okay, so putting me on the spot. Wow. And right as I was going to the bathroom.
Hold it.
Just make sure it doesn't explode. Because that'd be messy. Okay, so the poem, now keep in mind, this poem here, I have no experience writing poems, and I just wrote this while in depression. And I just wrote it as a form of self-therapy. And after I finished writing it, and I looked back on it, like, wow, that is depressing. Let's make it better. Let's brighten it up a bit. So here it is. Oh, and one more thing. After I finished writing it, adding more to it, I decided to refine it a bit, and, well, here's the final product. Behind this mask, I suffer as loneliness crushes my soul, creating a crater that grows ever deeper, becoming a pit of despair. I cry out for help, but no one answers, and those who do are unable to help me, as I am dragged back in chains to my prison of pain. How long must I suffer before my soul is lost forever to the darkness that threatens to swallow my soul? P.S. You can tell that this was the part where I was depressed, but... And you can see why I decided to add more to it. All right, here's more. No, I'm a man of great gifts, a man of great potential. I will break the chains that bind me and fight for my freedom. Even if the darkness swallows my soul, it is immortal and will never be extinguished. Like a mighty warrior, I will fight, and the darkness will know pain as I tear through its bowels and claw my way out stronger than ever. I will face the demons of my despair and grind them to dust. I will stand tall over my demons and emerge victorious. And should I lose my way, I will be brought back into the light by those I hold so dear. For the bonds we share shall give me strength.
That's it. Please give him room to go to the restroom.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for the Ask Us Anything, which you know what that means. Let's give a round of applause to our all-star panel. We did have some raffle prizes that are available. Reedsy offered $1,000 credit, editing, marketing, etc. We have 3 winners: Wesley Robert Lowe, Lisa Manifold, and Nori Cosper. We have your contact information. We need to get some info from you to send to Reedsy. And now, 1K Lytics Elite Lifetime Membership. That's worth like $1 gazillion because you can't buy them. MP McDougal. We spent the last 3 days together here, learning, partnering, befriending, hanging out, enjoying the bars, and generally learning and being passionate about all things self-publishing. I don't think it gets any better than that. You feel the energy. I can feel the tingles in my arms right now because my heart's not beating right. But there is no show like this. There is no show like this because the giving nature, and this is what the industry providers, when they talk to me, they said that the feeling, the aura is completely different at this show. 1,000 people, and every one of you is looking for an opportunity to give. How can I help that next person? Because there's always somebody who's farther down the mountain than you. It's a great thing. It's a great thing to experience. So what the hell are we going to do for 2020? How are we going to top this? Our goal is never to top it. It's just to have a great conference. And we had to turn a lot of people away, so we'll have 1,500 people next year, and we'll have them right here, Samstown. Don't bother getting on your phones trying to make reservations for rooms. I've got them all blocked. And when I say all, I mean all. Every single room in this hotel in that week of 2020 is under our room block. That's 620 rooms. That's a dozen suites. That's a couple super suites. That's it. That's all for 20Books Vegas. We have every single conference room next year as well. And so that's the only way we'll be able to manage 1,500. We'll have 1,000 down here, an extra couple hundred chairs and tables in the back. 500, that'll be up in Ponderosa. We'll have dueling major sessions. And you saw there's a lot of room. We had a lot of extra room. Some sessions were standing room only, kind of. There's room. There's plenty of room here, especially since you guys are okay with sharing the spotlight because we're all friends here. We're all peers. I hope everyone felt safe during this show. Peers, not prey, right? Compatriots, not competitors. We're not up here competing against each other. We're not trying to outbid each other for stage time because I'm just going to hog it all. So this is what we do, and we had a lot of people saying, God, I can't wait to come back. They're watching the videos. Sam's was very kind in offering to help us work with their system. I mean, we've got people up in a booth, like a professional studio recording this. The videos this year are phenomenal from Sam's Live. And we'll work, and hopefully we can get a little improvement on the sounds in Red Rock Pioneer and Ponderosa next year. We'll work. Well, that's over the next year. We've already started planning. We've already done the walkthroughs. We've already done everything we need to set us up for success next year. I will open up to buy tickets on February 29th at 9 a.m. Alaska time, because that's the world revolves around Alaska. February 29th, I believe, is a Saturday, so I'll make it Saturday at 9. I will be contacting people ahead of time, and I will have an early registration for those folks, like folks that we want on the stage, folks who will share with you. I'll tell you, John Truby, he was so excited and motivated. He said, "If you have a conference, I will come. Just tell me when it is." I said November this time last year. He's like, "I will be here." So John Truby is coming back next year. We have #1 New York Times bestselling author Lee Goldberg coming next year. We have our feelers out to hopefully get Andy Ware. Even though they're trad pub, they have a message. They have a message that you can learn from as an indie. What are they doing in their books that bring those readers back, that create a groundswell of support for readers, and that going viral? Everybody wants that book to go viral, and then everybody reads all your other books. These are the messages we're going to bring next year. We're going to have a good business focus. We're going to hog all 5 days. The conference will be the 10th to the 12th, Tuesday through Thursday. Friday, we intend to have a fan event. So we'll set up a ballroom with the tables, and we're going to ask for our friend Mike Bray, which everybody should friend on Facebook, for his business license, so we can sell books at that show as well. Last year we had it on a Thursday, and that hampered getting our fans here. Next year, Friday, so hopefully they can tie it with a 3-day weekend, come in on Thursday night, and spend the day with us on Friday, mini Comic-Con, plenty of cosplay, plenty of stuff to help sell books, and we work with our fans and have a good time. Monday we'll have other things going on. We'll be doing testing on our AV system just to make sure that the Tuesday through Thursday sessions work. This is how we're going to set ourselves up to win next year. Even better than this year, 1,500 at least. This is me. I have a hard time saying no. We'll probably have 1,700 people registered come November. Industry presence. I don't think a single person from the industry who is here this time will not be back. They will all be back, and there'll be more that look like them coming with them. We won't have sponsors again. It'll be Michael Anderle and Craig Martelle. We're going to sponsor this show. We'll make it happen. The conference fees will be limited. We can't get 1,500 in this room, so we'll start off here, probably just a single kickoff here, and then go dueling sessions, and we won't have a big session just here where we're trying to squeeze all 1,500 in. And so like 199, I think. There won't be a lunch, but we'll have plenty of catering in all the rooms, because we got to hit those minimums. I know, you're sneaking over, big fella. Yes?
We wouldn't be doing this right now without Craig Martelle. Can I get a round of applause for the man? And all of you that think that you might be able to get up on stage or get to have a speaking thing because you talk to me, I will immediately kick you to Craig Martelle. It doesn't go through me. Please talk to Mr. Martelle. You got anything else? I'll say one last thing, and then
one last thing. You got one last thing?
Well, I was going to close it.
Oh, I was going to close it.
Thank everybody up here. Thank everybody that's helped anybody. Thank you for creating the relationships with Ingram and Publishers Weekly, with Amazon, with Kobo, with Google Play, with everybody that came here. You are fucking amazing. Yes, I did do that. We are
20 Books Vegas is nothing without you. 20 Books to 50K is nothing without you. We are all peers. We're learning from each other. And my name is Craig Martelle, and this is 20 Books Vegas. Thank you.